1.6 K4M. Renault Duster first generation comes with 4 engines. There are 2 basic 1.6-liter engines. Before restyling, this crossover was equipped with a K4M engine. We have a detailed review of this engine. Regarding the Duster, we would like to add separately that on cars of the first years of production, the right side of the valve cover was resealed under warranty. Also, a 1.6-liter K4M engine with a mileage of more than 250,000 kilometers may require serious repairs due to wear on the camshaft beds. The lubrication of the camshaft journals deteriorates due to the fact that the lubrication system channels become clogged with fragments of the original anti-drainage valves, 7,700,274,177, and not only the original oil filters. Yes, this is a gift from the manufacturer. In general, instead of this tiny oil filter, it is better to install a larger filter, which is offered by some good manufacturers. We also pay attention to the fact that if water or traces of it appear on the Renault Duster engine, on the valve cover or in the spark plug wells, all attention to the ignition coil of the third cylinder on the flywheel side, then you need to put the windshield washer nozzles on the sealant. This water, or antifreeze, drips onto the engine through their holes in the hood. This engine also has a short-lived crankshaft position sensor, 8,200,647,559, due to the failure of which the engine will suddenly stop working. And if the idle speed of this engine is unstable, then look for air leaks at the throttle valve gasket. 1.6 H4M. In 2015, the base engine became a motor of Japanese origin, the production of which was also established in Togliatti. This is the H4M power plant, which we also reviewed in detail. This is an excellent engine, with a fairly durable timing chain and phase shifter, but without hydraulic compensators in the valve drive. This circumstance makes itself felt when driving over 250,000 kilometers or when operating the engine on gas. Of the serial sores associated with this engine, we note only the short-lived cushion of the right support and the corrugation of the exhaust pipe of the muffler, which is prone to burning out. 2.0 F4R. The most popular 2-liter naturally aspirated F4R has been produced by Renault since the late 1990s. These engines for Duster before and after restyling differ in power. The increase in power was achieved by increasing the compression ratio from the original 9.8 to 11.4. It is better not to operate a restyled engine on AI-92 gasoline at all. There are cases when these really unpretentious engines died due to the destruction of the partitions between the piston rings and the burning of valves against the background of significant play in their guides. Before this, the F4R engine begins to actively consume oil due to the occurrence of piston rings. In regions with poor fuel quality, during overhauls these engines are rebuilt to achieve a reduced compression ratio. They simply install pistons from older versions of the F4R. The first versions of this engine for the Duster, with a mileage of more than 100,000 kilometers, were disappointing due to the expensive replacement of the phase shifter. Due to wear and tear, it makes a characteristic knocking sound after starting the engine. Power also noticeably decreases and consumption increases. Today, a new original phase shifter, 7,701,478,459, can be bought for $130. But replacement requires intervention in the timing drive. With high mileage on this engine, the hydraulic compensators may become tired and a serious oil leak may appear from under the alloy valve cover and labyrinth oil separator. They are installed on sealant. 1.5 DC K9K. The only turbodiesel for the Duster also differs in power, 86 and 90 horsepower, before restyling and 109 horsepower. After, the original version of the engine is equipped with a Delphi fuel system, the updated version is equipped with a Siemens fuel system. Provided that the components of these injection systems are refueled with normal diesel fuel, they will not require attention until 200,000 to 250,000 kilometers or even more. A Delphi engine only needs an original fuel filter, HDF 954, which costs $22, otherwise the injectors will fail prematurely. They can be repaired and replaced, because today they are much cheaper, $240 each. Injectors for the 110 horsepower diesel Duster are even cheaper today, $140 apiece, 166008052R. Incredible generosity. But this engine is equipped with a particulate filter and a dual mass flywheel. The clutch kit, 7,701,479,062, will cost $270. The 1.5 DC engine is resourceful, unpretentious, and economical. Just maintain it on time. Do not forget that the drive has a toothed belt. And change the fireproof washers under the injectors every 100,000 kilometers. Renault Duster with a 2-liter engine can be found with an automatic transmission. Initially, all 2-pedal versions were front-wheel drive, and then the all-wheel drive automatic Duster appeared in the model range. In both cases, the old 4-speed transmission, designated DP2 or DP8, is paired with the engine. These are all descendants of the not very successful DP0. Engineers miraculously managed to extend its life. Even in an urban environment, it runs about 200,000 kilometers before overhaul. Often this sluggish and frankly old automatic lives up to 300,000 kilometers. Don't forget to change the oil at intervals of 80,000 kilometers. 3-pedal Dusters are equipped with 5-speed gearbox, JR5 or 6 Street, TL8, manual transmission. These are normal durable transmissions. 5 Street does not suffer from problems like its older versions. True, by the mileage of 200,000 kilometers the release bearing may begin to hum. Note that the Duster can shock the driver by the fact that the clutch pedal will fail one day and will not return to the top position. Sometimes before this, when you press the pedal, you will hear a plastic squeak. The clutch pedal and the rod it presses on are entirely plastic. The pedal fails because the rod comes off it. Its latches simply break off. You can change the entire pedal, or you can make a mount for the rod eye from scrap materials, washers, clamps, or plastic ties. The restyled Dusters are also equipped with a hydraulic clutch damper. This part is notorious from other Renaults. After 8 to 10 years of operation, it will begin to leak. And at the same time the clutch pedal will fail and return sluggishly. You will have to change it, $8,200,595,252, and pay $80 for the part. You won't be able to mute or delete it. When purchasing and operating a Duster, you must definitely pay attention to the drive shaft, namely its rear crosspiece. It is frankly weak. Over time, play appears in it, leading to strong beating of the cardan. This vibration can also kill a suspension bearing. There have been cases where, due to the huge wear in the lugs, the cardan jumped off the rear crosspiece. The rear spider suffers from the mobility of the rear gearbox, which noticeably plays in the vertical plane. The problem is that it is difficult to change the crosspieces of the Duster drive shaft, because the crosspieces are secured by punching. That is, you can take them out, but how can you center them later? In addition, the cardan eyes are thin. This means that it is practically impossible to bore them for more powerful crosspieces. In general, if the Duster's cardan has become loose, you'll have to go to specialists. This problem is so widespread that many workshops offer high-quality repairs. Moreover, not only will the crosspieces be changed, the shaft will be balanced, but the crosspieces will also be made removable. The original cardan is not for sale. There is a replacement for $420. A good reason for bargaining: an electromagnetic clutch is responsible for connecting the rear axle. It serves excellently, does not suffer from overheating and does not glitch. It is completely repairable and has a very simple structure. It is a package of clutches immersed in oil. The clutch is close under the influence of the magnetic force. If the clutch is working properly, when driving in circles in 4WD mode, resistance and jerking are felt. This is fine. If the car rolls easily in this mode, the clutch is worn out. On all-wheel drive Dusters, oil leaks often appear from the bevel gearbox. A leak appears near the axle shaft of the right front wheel. It is better not to ignore fogging in this place because a lot of oil can leak out through the seals. By the way, there are 2 oil seals next to each other. One smaller one seals the intermediate shaft with a manual transmission, the second with the cavity of the bevel gear. The internal oil seal, 8,200,983,401, is weak. Its rubber seal can simply break off. The oil will leak from the manual transmission, the transmission will overheat and the gears will turn blue. Also, if the oil seal leaks, the intermediate shaft bearing may hum. The new bearing, 3977021005R, is sold separately for $50. The front wheel bearings may begin to hum after a mileage of 150,000 kilometers. Wheel bearings cost $30 and are easy to replace. By the way, do not spare money to change the oil in the manual transmission, transfer case and rear gearbox every 100,000 kilometers. Set the level correctly in these components. Fill in the correct oil. It is different in the gearbox and gearboxes. Many people have heard that the suspension of the Renault Duster and the entire B0 platform can withstand any impact. But how does this affect its resource? Oddly enough, all suspension parts do not last long. The first replacements begin already after a mileage of 30,000 kilometers. And, most likely, these will be the front stabilizer bushings. They are easy to replace. The original costs $8, but it doesn't serve well. It is better to opt for a reinforced non-original one so as not to change the bushings every 30,000 kilometers. The lifespan of the stabilizer thrust greatly depends on the operating conditions. Smooth roads allow them to travel about 100,000 kilometers, but on potholes and off-road conditions they can barely cover 30,000 kilometers. With a mileage of about 50,000 kilometers, shock absorbers on Dusters may fog up. Naturally, you will have to change them. The original front ones will cost $75 a piece. On all-wheel drive Dusters, the rear shock absorbers can serve their purpose already after a mileage of 30,000 kilometers. The original will cost $50 per piece. It is better to choose non-original shock absorbers from a well-known manufacturer. The front suspension arms may need to be replaced after a mileage of 120,000 kilometers. Original front control arms assemblies cost $70. For non-original parts, there are many proposals for both levers and repair kits, which consist of 2 silent blocks and a ball joint that can be secured with 3 screws. The rear beam silent blocks of front-wheel drive Renault Dusters are rather weak and may require replacement after a mileage of 80,000 kilometers. Symptoms of their wear are not obvious, but dangerous. In turns, the rear suspension begins to actively steer, which even threatens to skid. To replace silent blocks, you need to lower the entire beam. Original silent blocks cost only $10, but experts recommend installing reinforced non-original products. There are a lot of offers for them, and they are even cheaper. And they last longer than the original. Despite the budget origin of the Duster, its body is fairly resistant to rust thanks to double galvanization. We can say that rust is more likely to appear on body parts that are poorly prepared for repainting than on original parts painted at the factory. However, it is still worth looking for rust on the body. It appears under the nameplate on the tailgate. Rubber door seals fit so tightly to the openings that over time they rub off the paint on them. If you want to protect the paint in these places, then use body film. When inspecting a Duster painted with regular acrylic paint, be tolerant of paint chips and even clouding of the varnish. Unfortunately, factory-made acrylic suffers from this. It loses its elegant appearance in the sun and under the blows of pebbles. Especially the hood and front fenders. The protruding rear wheel arches are also susceptible to sandblasting. Another generic disease of the Duster body is the appearance of paint cracks on the roof at the rear of the gutters. Apparently, the problem has not been resolved yet. Cracks appear due to insufficient rigidity of the body. And, in fact, these cracks in the gutters do not affect anything. This is just another reason to go to the dealer and ask for a repaint.